right now there's this conflict going on here, the Thai-Cambodian border. If you open your phone, you've probably seen it, right? You've seen it on IG, TikTok, any app you're using, you've probably seen it to some extent, even if you're far away and if you're not here in Thailand. And what you see is probably three different versions of that conflict that happening or those three different versions exist at the same time, right? On a mainstream TV or a news app, you see those calm official reports about this is happening here at the Thai-Cambodian border. Probably a military spokesperson talking about it. And on TikTok, on IG, you'll see the barrage of memes and angry, cutted videos, short form videos, bam, explosions in your face and things like this, nationalist memes, emojis, flag emojis and whatnot. And on international news, you'll probably see a very dispassionate report, just like facts, right? And that's the point, actually, because the first casualty of war, it's not just the truth, it's that shared reality. Because all those different points of view, it's the same thing, the same incident that exists from different angles. So today we're not analyzing the conflict, because probably I am kind of biased being in Thailand, but we're analyzing the conflict about the conflict. So, Sawadee Krap, welcome to another episode here for the Funkit Mindful Media and Communication. And mindfulness is a big word right now because, oh my God, with that war, it's not a war, conflict going on, mindfulness seems to be going out the window rather fast. So, I've got a few different angles for this, okay? First angle is we gotta look at the official narrative, the language of the states involved, Thailand and Cambodia. Because let's be honest, no one's gonna just tell just the truth, right? So there are obviously deliberate strategic talking points used by both sides. And it's often contradictory, of course, because, well, one side wants something, the other side wants something else. So if you want to analyze this, you would look at the press briefings, for example, the official statements on government websites, the graphics on state TV, for example, where you then see who attacked first, for example. When you look at Cambodian news, they will say that Thailand attacked first. When you look at Thai news, Thailand maps out how Cambodia attacked first, for example, and how they're hiding military equipment in civilian areas, for example. And while Cambodia says that Thailand started everything and they just had to retaliate. So different viewpoints, different talking points on both sides, obviously. And you can also see that the choice of words is pretty different, right? So for one side, it's a defensive maneuver. For the other, the others, it's like provocation, right? So what we read in the news, it's very often called provocation incursion, but it's basically they're provoking us. They crossed the line, they crossed the border, and they fired into our territory. So we fired back and back. So yeah, from our point of view, if we're Thailand, we're saying we're defending us, and they provoked us, and the other way around, Cambodia is going to say the same thing, right? They say Thailand provoked us for decades, and now we're just responding. So the wording about the same incident will try to make it look different in different angles. Also, what is kind of important is if you pay attention to what's actually not being talked about, what's not being said. Because there are many things that are not being said. And that's also strategic. That's what we call strategic ambiguity. It's we don't say it, because then the people will fill it in, and they will fill it in from their biased point of view. So as someone in Thailand, or as Thai people, or as someone who lives here, we of course take the Thai side up more or less automatically, right? So we will fill in oh yeah, those are the bad guys, even though they wouldn't actually have to state that, all right? And the other way around, of course, as well. It's like, hey, Cambodia is such a small country. We would never try to start war with a big country like that. Okay, so that's all also strategy. So when it comes to the strategy, there's one core media theory we have to be aware of. It's called framing theory. If you've been following the podcast, you've heard about this before. I'm just going to repeat a little bit. If not, first time, also no problem, because I'm explaining. So framing theory is like one of the core media concepts. Okay, framing theory basically means, as the name suggests, you put a frame around the story. So the story is the Thai-Cambodia border conflict. And now you take a frame, and this is in real life, right? The frame keeps something in your point of view. There's still things happening outside of the frame, but we're focusing on what's in the frame. So you take a frame, you can make the frame big, you can make the frame smaller. Doesn't really matter, but you frame what you show to the people. So then as a news outlet, as a media outlet, as the government, as any organization, you take a frame, put it on an incident, and then say, hey, people, look inside my frame. This is what's happening right now. So from a Cambodian point of view, for example, you would put a frame around Thailand attacking with fighter jets, right? So like, look at Thailand, they're bombing us. From a Thai point of view, you would put a frame on like, hey, look at how Cambodia started it. Look at how they shot from civilian areas into our civilian areas, killing innocent people. So you put the frames on what you want the people to see without mentioning things that are happening outside the frame that in real life obviously contribute to what's happening inside that frame. Okay, so that's the framing theory. Yeah, so you can frame it as like, this country is about historical heritage, for example, the border, how it was like established, who owns the temple, and so on. Cambodia says they're scared that Thailand will like encroach on them and will like will try to take Cambodian land, and they want to stay like sovereign as a nation, for example. So everyone tries to spin different narratives by adding different kinds of frame to it. Yeah, so every side is trying to win the argument before all the facts are out there. So then they're not like, let's look at all the facts. Look at my frame. Isn't it not? It's not pretty, but look at this. Look at my frame. This is how it really is. Trust me. Okay. When it comes to that, when it comes to framing, sometimes you gotta sit back and be like, wow, damn. You gotta admire the linguistic gymnastics that the people framing things are going through. Another example, but this podcast is about Thailand, Cambodia, but another example would be Donald Trump and the Epstein files right now, right? First they're denying things, then they're like, okay, no, the list might have actually existed, but I'm not on there. But maybe my name's on there, but I never really went to that island though. Like, so look at the bad people at that island, look at Obama over here. So that's also taking a frame and making people look at that frame or what's in that frame, ignoring the things around the frame. Okay, so the same thing happening right now here when it comes to that conflict. It's a masterclass in strategic communication. That is one of the things you'll learn right away in strategic communication, how to frame things in a way that you want, that you would like people to see it, okay? The primary goal when it comes to framing is not to inform the public. The primary goal is to manage them into a state of I don't know, righteous indignation maybe. Like, yeah, it's not giving you all the info. It's like you telling me I'm right and you're following what I'm saying. Okay, so then the second point, besides the governmental ways of communicating, is of course the online rage, the netizens, right? And there we have to get dirty probably, because we're going to go into the social media swarm that also has never been drained, by the way. And that's where the emotional battle is taking place, right? Fought by millions of keyboard warriors. So what you see online is, of course, now like a big explosion of nationalist flags and emojis and historical grievances being brought out again from back in the 15th century to now us versus them, and then mentions of the Khmer Rouge, of course, all the time, because if you have an issue with Cambodia, it's always a Khmer Rouge. While their influence can, of course, not be ignored. I'm just saying that's what pops up right away, of course, right? And then the spread of like unverified grainy videos, are those videos real? Are those videos from Deconstructing? Are those AI videos? Who knows? But they're spreading like wildfire, and you see troop movements and online, and you see maps and you see thing analysis and everything, like all in like 30-second clips. Yeah, a border conflict between two nations where people die, and you see 30-second clips, and you make your mind up based on 30-second clips. Now that's how then online mobs target and doxing maybe even anyone who's against it, who's trying to be more moderate, who's trying to take like a different point of view and says like, hey, I heard of framing theory before. I know what's happening. Let me maybe look outside the frame. If you're not with us, you're against us. And this happens very quickly, especially in an online environment, right? So there's a theory called imagined communities. It's an old school theory that says a nation isn't just a place, right? Because it's an imagined community we feel part of, even though we don't meet most of the people in that community as a citizen, as a national of a certain nationality of a certain nation. I will still never meet most of the other people. I'm from Germany. There are 82 million people in Germany. Most of those people I will never meet. So why do I feel like I belong with them, for example, right? So that's the imagined communities theory. So in a conflict, where social media supercharges this feeling. We're like, no, it's us against them. We're who are in Thailand, who are Thais, or we're who are in Cambodia, who are Cambodians. Like, it's us versus them. It's patriotism 24/7, 360. Let's hope not 365, but you know what I see. So you feel connected to Team Thailand, to Team Cambodia, right? So that's the imagined community. Also, in communication theories, there's like this. The theories about in-groups and out-groups, meaning that people, humans inherently want to belong to something, someone. We don't want to be alone. And of course, being in a nation is like the easiest way to connect to someone. So I'm Cambodian, I'm Thai, I'm German, I'm whatever. So I already have an in-group. I'm not alone. And then if there's a conflict, of course, it's us versus them. We're right? So that's something that we see happening right now as well. And if you look on social media and you just check the comments, there are barely any comments that say like, hey guys, you have to like look at all the facts further. It's always like, yeah, they started it. They've been doing this since the 15th century. They took away our, and so on, right? So this is something that's happening, and it's supercharged, of course, by social media and maybe even by AI, let's be honest. And there's a second theory that we can add to that we also had before already on this podcast. It's called the spiral of silence theory, okay? So this theory explains why most extreme views often seem like the majority online. Why is the case? Well, easy, because people with moderate or differing opinions, they usually stay silent. Why? Because they're scared of being attacked, isolated, singled out. If I disagree with the loud opinion, I'm like, no, actually, I don't think that's the case. Then people come and be like, hey, no, are you not for us? Why are you not for us? Come on, you have to defend our nation right now. How dare you not be for us in this critical time? So you're like, okay, I didn't say anything, sorry. Right? So that's the spiral of silence. So people with different views, or maybe moderate views, they're more silent, they're more quiet, they're not as loud as the people with extreme views. People with extreme views, they think if they yell it out, it makes it more real. So they're the loud ones, and then because of the spiral of silence, the loud ones, even if it's not a majority, the loud ones are the ones that get all the attention. And then eventually you think, okay, no one's saying anything against it. Are they right? Am I wrong? Everyone's following this, right? Yeah, again, we're sticking with Thailand and Cambodia, but Trump, right? It's exactly that. The spiral of silence led to basically Trump being in office. So, especially in the first term. So, this theory explains very well why the loud ones, the extreme views, are the ones that come to the surface the easiest, because people with moderate views, people with differing views, they stay silent because they're scared. Okay, so the silence makes the loud, the nationalist, the extreme views seem more dominant than they really are, and then more people think, well, if that's what everyone is saying, I guess I have to follow that. So suddenly, right, everyone on your Facebook feed with a flag in their profile picture is like a military strategist, a PhD in ancient cartography, knows exactly when which borderline between Thailand and Cambodia was drawn. The comment sections, they're like they're the equivalent of like a bar fight right now. Like, no, I know better. No, you know better. That would be nice. No, you don't know anything. Yeah, and I mean that's Facebook, TikTok, that's anything on social media, right? So it's not a nice atmosphere. And well, let's be honest, those comment sections also have way worse grammar than bar fights. But that's just a side point. It's supposed to bring us together, and it's clearly bringing us apart, right? So that was first the governmental point of view, then now the online mob point of view, and now what I mentioned in the beginning, the international point of view, right? From an international point of view, like, how is this conflict being packaged for the rest of the world? And let's be honest, like outlets like the BBC, Reuters, Al Jazeera, and so on, they're like very dispassionate, which is understandable to some extent. They're talking about like a border clash, they're talking about a border dispute, or it's like the start of a conflict that should not escalate and things like this. They have some local experts that just add a few sound bites to it, barely ever amplifying one side's narrative unless there's an agenda to it. Keep that one in mind for what we do in 30 seconds. And usually you can also look at what are they focusing on? What are they focusing on? Are they focusing on the human cost? Are they focusing on potential economic implications? Are they focusing on diplomatic efforts? There is something to it, to what different news channels focus on when they are reporting about those international incidents. And now the word I just mentioned comes into play. Agenda. Yeah, agenda setting theory. Also one of the most basic theories when it comes to media theories, media communication theories. Agenda setting theory basically means that, well, everybody has an agenda, right? And the media does not tell us what to think, but they tell us what to think about. So the elements that the international media, BBC, Al Jazeera, whatever you're watching, chooses to highlight or to ignore will fundamentally shape the global understanding of that conflict and also of the reaction to that conflict. I'm letting you sit for a moment, and then I give you examples, right? So what is the BBC reporting on when it comes to Thailand, Cambodia right now? What is Al Jazeera focusing on? Do they focus on the same things? Do they focus on different things? Do they have different agendas? That said, you can apply this agenda setting to basically any kind of conflict, any news, basically, but with conflicts it's easy to highlight. Since we're in Thailand, when's the last time you heard about the ongoing genocide in Myanmar? Exactly. What's the agenda there? Why is no one talking about it anymore, right? Same thing applies to Ukraine, Russia, Gaza, Israel. Like, why are news outlets not highlighting one thing, but highlighting the other thing? So they will never say, you will not hear a news outlet saying Thailand is right. You will not hear a news outlet saying Cambodia is right. But news outlets will have different agendas framing what they show you differently because of the agenda that they have. Okay? So that is something to keep in mind. Yeah, agenda setting, like everybody has an agenda. So what they show you and what they don't show you is usually very much on purpose. So be aware of it. Be aware of agenda setting, framing, and those things, okay? So don't just take everything for gospel that you see, even if it's on BBC, because apparently we believe everything the BBC says. So yeah, no, I'm not hating on that, because again, everybody has an agenda. Just be critical with any kind of media that you are consuming, okay? Because if you watch the international coverage, it's like watching someone try to explain like a family argument when they've only spoken to the two angry cousins at the barbecue, right? So what is this about? Oh, he sucks. No, he sucks more. But you don't know what actually happened in between your parents, your uncle, your grandparents. You just talk to those two guys that are the most angry, drunk guys at the family get together, right? So that's basically what happens when international news outlets come to like a local conflict like this. No subtext, no context. Basic facts, sure, but then that's about it, and they don't really care much about the rest. So now, having that said, to wrap things up, how can we understand what's happening, right? The survival guide for your brain, basically. So we want to be more mindful media and communication. So how do we do that, especially during a crisis where everything is immediate, urgent, and so on, right? So this is basically the so what part now of the podcast. So we know all those things that happen. It sucks. So what? Well, there are now 3 things I want to talk about. I want to share with you, and then we're going to call it a day because it's too much conflict talk. One is called lateral reading. So lateral reading means don't just read the article, read the source. Okay, so before you invest time in an article from a website that you might not even know, open a new tab and investigate the site itself. Like, what is it actually about? Who funds that site? Where are they from? What's their agenda? Then you know if you can trust it or not. Yes, it's some extra work, understand. However, if you want to know something about a potential war, it might be worth to spend a minute or two to actually fact check something, right? This is not a TMC article. It is actually something about a potential war or at least a big conflict, okay? Second, we call it emotional skepticism. For me, that's the most important one. You got to learn to recognize when a piece of media is engineered to make you feel angry, patriotic, scared. You need to recognize when a piece of media is trying to manipulate your emotions. Because if they can manipulate our emotions, they get us triggered. They make us do things like, share, subscribe, yell at people, comment, and so on, right? So strong emotion is the enemy of critical thinking. As soon as we feeling strongly about something, we stop to think critically and we just shade everything. So you feel that powerful surge, that urge to yell at people. That's your brain's alarm bell to be like, hey, take a breather, take a step back. This is not the right reaction, especially when it comes to a conflict like that. Okay, so then you should be extra skeptical. If something makes you feel like, oh, that's when you should step back, calm down, be extra skeptical. Okay, last thing, we call it triangulation. Basic, never trust a single source. Never trust a single source, unless it's the fun bit part. No, never trust a single source, okay? The closest you get to the truth is by finding the intersection point between different types of narratives, right? So take the state theory that we had in the beginning, then take the chaotic online story, then take the detached international story, bring it all together, look at everything, and then you find hopefully something that has it in common, like in the Venn diagram, right? The middle point that they all have in common, and then maybe that's something that you can take and be like, okay, that seems to be true, okay? Because the truth, it's never that obvious, because it's never that easy. So the truth is usually somewhere in the gaps between those 3 that I just mentioned, okay? So check everything. Again, I understand it's not easy, it's exhausting, and it's going to take a little bit. But again, you're not checking the latest TMC gossip news article about Pete Diddy, why he's free and where his next party is. You're trying to figure out, is this going to be a war and how will this affect us? Yeah, and so I think that's worth spending 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of research time before believing a certain narrative. All right, that's me for now. I'm finishing the pod here right now because I have to go train Muay Thai just in case I have to defend the country. Let me know how you feel about all that. Does it bother you? Does it affect you? Do you live in Thailand or Cambodia? What are your feelings about it? If you're not in Thailand or Cambodia, what do you think about this conflict? How does it affect you? How did it hear from you? Do you have any fears? Do you see like all more war happening everywhere in the world? Like, how can we stop it? What are your thoughts? Shout out in the comments at FunkyPod on social media. Until then, we talk soon. Stay safe. Take care. All right, Ulrika.